You're dead to me, she screamed and slammed the door in my face. All because I refused to co-sign another loan for my sister's scam business. 2 years of silence followed, until I got her voicemail. Trembling voice, hospital background, and a desperate plea. She needed a kidney. But that's not what broke me. It was what I found days later. A letter confirming I'd been cut out of her will, with a sticky note that read, "Handle after surgery." They wanted my organ, then planned to discard me. What they didn't know? I investigate elder fraud for a living. And I wasn't here to save her, I was here to expose them. But before we begin, let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. My name is Rachel Camden, and I'm 35 years old. I spend my days analyzing financial records for estate compliance, coming home to a quiet townhouse where no one needs anything from me. My mother Carol taught me early that love came with conditions, while my younger sister Brittany learned to take without giving. My last conversation with Mom ended in her typical fashion, a screaming match over money she wanted me to loan Brittany. I touched the framed diploma on my wall, estate recovery certification gleaming under glass. Mom never knew I specialized in tracking financial exploitation, a skill that let me see through every sugar-coated lie she'd ever told. My shoulders relaxed as I sipped my evening tea, savoring the peace of my carefully built life. But let me start from the beginning. The voicemail landed like a grenade in my peaceful Thursday evening. 2 years of blessed silence, shattered by Mom's trembling voice. "Rachel, honey, I need to see you. Please, I'm at Mercy General. My kidneys..." A rattling breath. "I know I don't deserve it, but please come. I'm so sorry." My tea went cold as I replayed the message 3 times. You know that sick feeling when your past comes knocking? The one that makes your stomach drop and your throat close up? That's where I lived for the next hour, pacing my living room. The last time I'd seen Mom, she'd been screaming at me to get out of her house. All because I wouldn't co-sign another doomed business loan for Brittany's latest scheme, some crystal-healing life coaching nonsense. "You're dead to me," she'd shrieked. "Get out!" The words still echoed in my head, sharp as broken glass. I should have deleted the message, should have blocked the number. Instead, I found myself driving to Mercy General the next morning, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The familiar scent of hospital antiseptic hit me as I stepped off the elevator onto the renal ward. My sensible heels clicked against linoleum, each step feeling heavier than the last. Room 412. I paused at the doorway, my heart hammering. Mom lay propped up in bed, looking smaller than I remembered. Her carefully dyed blonde hair had lost its usual bounce, and her makeup couldn't quite hide the gray undertone of her skin. Brittany lounged in the visitor's chair, scrolling through her phone. She glanced up, her face twisting like she'd tasted something sour. "Well, look who finally showed up," she sneered. Mom's eyes fluttered open. "Rachel? Oh, thank God." She reached for me with a trembling hand. "Come here, baby." My feet moved without my permission. I stopped just shy of the bed, not taking her hand. "What's wrong with your kidneys?" "Stage 4 failure," Mom's voice cracked. "The doctors say I need a transplant. Soon." Her fingers found my wrist, cool and desperate. "I've thought about you every day. I was so wrong, sweetheart. So terribly wrong." Something in her tone set off warning bells. I'd heard this voice before, when she needed money, when she wanted favors, when she was setting up her next manipulation. Her grip tightened as tears spilled down her cheeks. "You're my only hope, Rachel. My only chance." I glanced at Brittany, who was suddenly very interested in her manicure. "Why didn't you call me sooner? Why wasn't I your first call?" Mom's eyes slid away from mine for just a fraction of a second. That's when I knew. That microscopic tell I'd learned to spot in childhood, the one that always preceded a lie. I was ashamed," she whispered. "It took me this long to face what I'd done." Brittany shifted in her chair, and something clicked. "You already tested Brittany, didn't you? She wasn't a match." The silence in the room turned thick as cement. Mom's hand went slack on my wrist. "It doesn't matter," Mom finally said. "What matters is making things right, being a family again." I stepped back, my skin crawling. This wasn't an apology. It was a transaction. She didn't want me back. She wanted my organs. 2 years of silence, and suddenly I was family again because her first-choice donor didn't pan out? The doctors want to start testing potential donors right away, Mom continued, her voice taking on that familiar, wheedling tone. I've already told them about you. They can see you this afternoon. I looked between them. Mom's calculated desperation, Brittany's poorly hidden resentment. The weight of their expectations pressed against my chest like a stone. Everything in me screamed to run, to protect the life I'd built without them. But another part, that stupid, responsible part that never quite learned to shut up, whispered, What if? What if this time was different? I'll think about it, I heard myself say, but I have conditions. Mom's words hung in the air like smoke. I crossed my arms, studying her face. So Brittany wasn't a match? No, Mom sighed, shooting my sister an apologetic look. We tried, but the doctor said my blood type wasn't compatible. Brittany cut in, defensive. I would have done it if I could. She tossed her bleached blonde hair, but I caught the relief hiding behind her indignation. You know that moment when puzzle pieces suddenly snapped together? When I was 8, I'd found Mom's hidden Christmas presents weeks early. That same sick disappointment flooded through me now. I wasn't her first choice for reconciliation. I was her backup plan. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I processed this. 2 years of silence, of wondering if I'd done the right thing by walking away. And now here we were, right back in our old patterns. Mom needed something, and suddenly I existed again. Rachel? Mom's voice wavered. Please, honey. I know I don't deserve your help, but... Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop for a minute. A memory hit me. The smell of Mom's signature lasagna, the one she only made when she wanted something. The way she'd serve it with extra cheese, buttering me up before dropping whatever bomb was coming. The same calculated desperation colored her voice now. If you want me to consider being tested, I said slowly, I need to understand what I'm walking into. This isn't just a blood draw. It's major surgery, recovery time, complications. Of course, of course. Mom nodded eagerly. Whatever you need to know. And I'd want to be involved in your care plan, before and after. I leaned forward. Actually, I think I should stay at the house while we figure this out. Brittany's head snapped up. What? No way! It makes sense, I pressed, ignoring her. You'll need help coordinating appointments, managing medications, and if we're really trying to rebuild relationships here, I let that hang. Mom's fingers twisted in her blanket. Well, your old room is still there. Just like you left it. That wasn't entirely true. I'd seen Brittany's social media posts showing my bedroom transformed into her healing crystal workspace. But I kept that knowledge to myself. I can move in tomorrow, I said. Take some time off work. Really focus on reconnecting. The word tasted false on my tongue, but Mom's face lit up. Oh, sweetheart. Yes. Yes, that would be wonderful. Brittany stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Mom, can we talk about this? Alone? There's nothing to discuss, Mom said firmly. Rachel's right. We need family now more than ever. I watched their silent exchange, noting the panic in Brittany's eyes, the way Mom's jaw tightened. Whatever game they were playing, my presence in the house clearly wasn't part of the plan. I should go pack, I said, standing. Get things arranged at work. Of course, honey. Mom reached for my hand again. This time I let her take it. Her skin felt paper-thin, almost translucent under the harsh hospital lighting. Thank you for giving us another chance. I squeezed her fingers gently, then let go. As I turned to leave, Brittany stepped into my path. I've been taking care of her, she hissed. I don't need your help. Good thing it's not up to you. I met her glare steadily. See you tomorrow, sis. The elevator ride down felt surreal. My hands shook slightly as I pressed the lobby button, but my mind was already shifting into analytical mode. I'd spent years learning to spot financial fraud, to trace paper trails and follow money. Now those skills had a new purpose. Rachel! Brittany's voice echoed across the parking lot as I reached my car. I turned to find her hurrying toward me, designer heels clicking on asphalt. What? Just... She glanced around, lowering her voice. Mom's been through enough. Don't make things harder than they need to be. I smiled, the expression not quite reaching my eyes. Wouldn't dream of it. You know that feeling when you step into your old bedroom and time stops? That's what hit me as I wheeled my suitcase through the front door of my childhood home. Everything was exactly as I remembered. The faded family photos lining the hallway, Mom's collection of crystal figurines catching afternoon light. Even the air felt preserved, heavy with her signature perfume and something else. Desperation, maybe? "Your room's upstairs," Brittany called from the kitchen, not bothering to help with my bags. "Don't touch my healing crystals." I climbed the familiar stairs, each step creaking in its designated spot. The sound transported me back to teenage years of sneaking in late, trying to avoid Mom's interrogations. Now here I was, walking right into one. My old room had been transformed into what looked like a New Age gift shop explosion. Crystals covered every surface, strings of fairy lights draped across the windows, and a whiteboard proclaimed, "Brittany Camden, Life Evolution Specialist." Below that, a list of pricing tiers for her coaching packages started at $500. "It's my workspace now." Brittany appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "But I guess you can sleep in here. Just don't disturb the energy alignment." I set my suitcase down carefully between two meditation cushions. "Fascinating business model you've got going. I help people transform their lives." She lifted her chin. "Not that you'd understand, stuck in your boring finance job." "Mm-hmm." I watched as she pulled out her phone, thumbs flying across the screen. A notification pinged, something about a declined payment. "Whatever," she huffed. "Mom needs her medication. Make yourself useful and pick it up from the pharmacy." After she flounced out, I did a slow scan of the room. Credit card statements peeked out from under a manifestation journal. Designer shopping bags stuffed in the closet still had tags attached. The air reeked of expensive candles and bad decisions. While Mom napped that afternoon, I did some quiet investigating. The kitchen drawers told quite a story. Unpaid utility bills, late notices from the property tax office, a letter from the bank about missed mortgage payments. Yet Brittany's Instagram showed her flaunting new clothes and luxury spa days, all hashtagged ing abundance mindset. "Rachel?" Mom's voice drifted from the living room. "Could you make some tea?" I found her curled in her favorite armchair, looking small and gray. For a moment, my heart squeezed. Then I noticed the jewelry catalog open on her lap, pages flagged with sticky notes. "How are you feeling?" I handed her the tea. "Oh, fine, fine." She waved dismissively. "Your sister's been such a blessing handling all the finances while I'm under the weather. Did you see her new business cards? So professional." Right on cue, Brittany breezed in wearing what looked like a brand new yoga outfit. "Mom, I need to borrow your credit card. It's for a very important business retreat." "Of course, sweetie." Mom reached for her purse without hesitation. "You know I believe in investing in your future." My stomach churned as I watched the exchange. Where was this support when I'd needed help with college textbooks? Or when my car broke down during my first internship? That night, I lay awake in my crystal-cluttered room, listening to Brittany's voice drift up from below. She was on another coaching call, spouting empty phrases about abundance attraction, while probably maxing out Mom's cards. A notification lit up my phone, a shipping confirmation for something Brittany had ordered using Mom's email. The total made me wince. Next to me, a rose quartz crystal caught moonlight, casting a pale shadow that looked almost like a dollar sign. I pulled out my laptop and opened a fresh document. Time to start documenting everything: dates, amounts, patterns. In my line of work, we had a name for this kind of financial exploitation, and it wasn't abundance mindset. Through the wall, I heard Mom cough, that weak, rattling sound that reminded me why I was really here. She needed a kidney, yes, but what she needed more was protection, even if it was from her precious Brittany, even if she didn't know it yet. A text from Brittany lit up my phone. "Stay out of my business." I switched off the light but kept typing in the dark. Every transaction, every suspicious transfer would build my case. Because that's the thing about paper trails. They don't lie, even when families do. The morning sun slanted through the crystals, casting rainbow prisms across Mom's medical files spread out on the dining room table. I'd offered to organize her paperwork for the upcoming transplant evaluation, partly to be helpful, partly to understand exactly what we were dealing with. You know that feeling when you're sorting through mundane stuff and suddenly stumble across something that stops your heart? That's what happened when I found the envelope. It was tucked between insurance forms and lab results, crisp and white with confidential stamped in red. The return address belonged to Harrison and Myers, a local law firm. My fingers hesitated over the seal, still intact, addressed to Mom. I shouldn't. But 20 years in this family had taught me that secrets were usually weapons, and I was done being blindsided. The paper made a soft, ripping sound as I opened it. Inside was a formal letter, dated 3 months ago, right around when Mom's diagnosis got serious. My eyes scanned the legal language until they caught on words that made my coffee turn to acid in my stomach. This letter confirms the amendments to your last will and testament as discussed, removing Rachel Camden as beneficiary. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, forcing myself to read every damning line. They'd rewritten everything. The house, the investments, Mom's antique collection, all of it now went solely to Brittany. I was erased, written out of the legacy as cleanly as I'd been written out of their lives 2 years ago. But it was the yellow post-it note stuck to the second page that truly gutted me. In Mom's precise handwriting, handle after surgery. A laugh bubbled up, bitter and sharp enough to cut glass. Of course. They needed my kidney first, then they'd spring this lovely surprise. The perfect transaction. Take the organ, then take everything else. Remember the smell of your mom's perfume when she hugged you as a kid? Mine wore Chanel No. 5, and for years that scent meant safety. Now all I could smell was that sickly sweet manipulation, coating everything like poison honey. My hands shook as I folded the papers back into their envelope. The urge to pack my bags and walk out that door nearly overwhelmed me. Let them figure out their own medical solution. Let them drown in their own toxic games. But something shifted inside me, like tectonic plates grinding against each other until they locked into new positions. The trembling in my hands stilled. Rachel? Mom's voice drifted in from the living room. Could you help me with these insurance forms? I smoothed the envelope carefully, tucking it exactly where I'd found it. Coming, Mom. She smiled when I walked in, patting the couch beside her. You're so good with paperwork, sweetheart. I don't know what I'd do without you. I forced my face to stay neutral as I sat down. This woman, who'd raised me to be responsible while teaching me nothing about love, had no idea what was coming. Happy to help, I said, and I meant it, just not in the way she thought. Through the window, I watched Brittany pull up in her new car, the one she'd somehow afforded despite her business having no actual clients. She was on her phone, probably planning her next luxury purchase with Mom's dwindling resources. My sister caught me watching and gave a little wave, all saccharine sweetness. She thought she had it all figured out. Get my kidney for Mom, secure the inheritance, keep bleeding the accounts dry. The perfect daughter and the perfect scam. But here's the thing about working in estate recovery. You learn that paper trails tell stories. And every transaction, every legal document, every rushed amendment leaves breadcrumbs. Mom and Brittany had no idea that they'd just handed me exactly what I needed. I turned back to the insurance forms, my mind already mapping out next steps. Sometimes the best revenge isn't storming out. It's staying perfectly still while you build your case. Mom, I said, keeping my voice gentle, why don't we go through all your accounts, just to make sure everything's in order before the surgery? She beamed at me. You're always so thorough, dear. I smiled back, thinking of that damning envelope. Yes, I am. I sat on my childhood bed, the familiar squeak of springs bringing back a flood of memories. My suitcase lay open beside me, clothes half-packed in a moment of raw fury. The urge to flee pulsed through me like a second heartbeat. You know that moment when clarity hits? When all the puzzle pieces suddenly lock into place? That's what finding that envelope did to me. Every fake smile, every manufactured tear in the hospital, it was all orchestrated for one purpose: get the kidney, then cut me out completely. My fingers traced the worn edges of my old desk, where I used to study late into the night, always the responsible one, always planning ahead. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mom had raised me to be thorough, detail-oriented, reliable, and now those very traits would be her undoing. Because here's what they didn't know. I'd spent the last 7 years building cases exactly like this one. Estate recovery isn't just about tracking down assets, it's about recognizing patterns of exploitation. The signs were textbook: an elderly parent with declining health, a dependent adult child living at home, suspicious financial transactions, and conveniently timed legal documents. I closed my eyes, letting my professional training override the daughter's pain. How many times had I sat across from victims of elder financial abuse? How many times had I traced the paper trail of coercion, documented the subtle manipulation that preceded major financial decisions? The scent of Mom's pot roast wafted up from the kitchen, along with the sound of Brittany's theatrical laughter. My stomach clenched. That laugh used to mean another disaster was brewing, another failed business venture, another maxed-out credit card, another emergency that required my intervention. Not this time. I stood up, smoothing my clothes with steady hands. The suitcase could wait. I had work to do. Remember those old detective shows where they gather evidence right under the suspect's nose? That's what this had become. Every bank statement, every legal document, every casual conversation about finances, it would all build my case. I'd need proof of Brittany's spending, documentation of Mom's medical state when she signed that will amendment, witness statements about undue influence. The stairs creaked as I descended, envelope in hand. I slipped it back into the desk drawer exactly as I'd found it. In the kitchen, Mom was plating dinner while Brittany scrolled through her phone, probably planning her next shopping spree with Mom's dwindling savings. "There you are," Mom called out. "I was worried you'd fallen asleep up there." I smiled, settling into my old spot at the table. Just organizing some things. You know me, always trying to keep everything in order. Brittany rolled her eyes. "God, you're such a control freak. This isn't your office, Rach." "No," I agreed, accepting a plate from Mom. "But someone needs to handle the practical details." The pot roast tasted like childhood, like Sunday dinners before everything went wrong. Back when I still believed family meant unconditional love, not conditional transactions. "Speaking of practical details," I said carefully, "I was thinking we should review all the medical and financial paperwork tomorrow. Make sure everything's properly documented for the transplant evaluation." Mom's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Oh, I don't think that's necessary. Brittany's been handling everything." "Has she?" I took a small bite, chewing thoughtfully. "Still, it wouldn't hurt to have a second set of eyes, especially given my background in financial compliance." Brittany's knuckles whitened around her water glass. "I've got it under control." "I'm sure you do." I kept my voice light, interested. But these medical procedures involve so many moving parts. Insurance, estate planning, power of attorney. It's better to be thorough, right? Mom nodded slowly. "Well, I suppose it couldn't hurt." "Great!" I reached for the bread basket. "We can start first thing tomorrow." Brittany shot me a look that could curdle milk, but I just smiled. Let them think I was being my usual responsible self. The dutiful daughter returned to help. They had no idea they'd just invited a forensic investigator to examine their paper trail. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of forced small talk and careful observation. Every time Brittany mentioned her life coaching business, I made mental notes. Every casual reference to recent purchases, every hint about financial arrangements, it all went into my mental evidence file. I volunteered to do the dishes, using the time to think. Tomorrow, I'd start gathering documentation, bank statements, credit card bills, legal correspondence, anything that could prove exploitation. I'd need to be subtle, strategic. One wrong move could tip them off. But for now, I just dried plates and smiled, playing the role they expected. The responsible daughter, home to help, ready to give until there was nothing left. If only they knew what I was really giving them. Ever notice how people get sloppy when they think they're in control? Over the next few days, Brittany and Mom left a trail of financial breadcrumbs that would make a forensic auditor weep with joy. I started small, just my phone's camera quietly capturing random household items. Oh, look, a stack of bank statements left on the kitchen counter. Click. How interesting. A checkbook with practiced signature attempts on the memo pad beside it. Click. A credit card bill showing charges for designer handbags when Mom hadn't left the house in weeks? You bet that was worth a photo. The real gold came during their phone calls. I'd learned to recognize Brittany's business voice, the one she used when scamming someone. That first morning, I heard it floating up from the living room while I was supposedly taking a shower. "Yes, this is Carol Camden," Brittany chirped to someone's customer service department. "I'm calling about transferring funds from my savings to my checking account." My phone was already recording. The amount? $50,000. I'd positioned myself at the top of the stairs, phone gripped tight, catching every word. "Yes, my social security number is..." Brittany rattled off Mom's information like she'd memorized it. Because she had. That same afternoon, I watched her intercept the mail carrier, pulling out anything that looked official before Mom could see it. The next day, she spent 2 hours practicing Mom's signature while Mom napped. Just helping with the medical forms, she'd said when I walked in. Sure you were, sis. But the moment that sealed it, finding Mom's driver's license photocopied multiple times, along with her social security card, those weren't sitting in a secure spot. They were tucked into Brittany's vision board notebook, right next to magazine cutouts of luxury vacations. I needed professional backup. During my lunch breaks, always taken at the local coffee shop to catch up on work emails, I researched elder fraud attorneys. Most were local, too risky. But I found one 3 cities over, Catherine Chen, who specialized in complex family financial abuse cases. Her website didn't mince words, protecting seniors from those who should protect them. My mother's being financially exploited by my sister, I told Catherine during our first call, keeping my voice low despite being alone in my car. I need to know my options. Are you gathering documentation? She asked. Photos, recordings, bank statements, everything I can legally access. Good, but we'll need more than proof of fraud. Has your mother had a formal capacity evaluation? I glanced at my notes. Not yet. That's my next step. Smart, Catherine said. If we can prove diminished capacity when she signed recent financial documents, like an amended will, I supplied. Exactly. Everything could be invalidated. The pieces were falling into place. That afternoon, I called Mom's primary care physician, Dr. Martinez, using the medical power of attorney Mom had eagerly signed when I agreed to move in. I'm concerned about my mother's decision-making capacity, I explained. She's making major financial and medical choices, but some days she seems confused. Dr. Martinez's voice softened. I've noticed some cognitive changes myself. Would you like me to order a formal evaluation? Please, I said. As soon as possible. Back home, I maintained my cover. Helped Mom with her medications, attended her dialysis appointments, nodded sympathetically when Brittany complained about her latest business setback. But every day my evidence file grew thicker. I photographed Brittany's handwriting samples next to Mom's real signature, recorded 3 more calls where she impersonated Mom to financial institutions, documented every questionable transaction, every forged check, every diverted bank statement. You're being so helpful, Mom said one evening, patting my hand. I'm glad you came home. The guilt hit hard, but I pushed it down. This wasn't about revenge, it was protection. They'd forced my hand the moment they decided to use me for spare parts while planning to cut me out completely. I met Catherine for coffee 2 towns over, bringing copies of everything I'd gathered. She spread the documents across the cafe table, her expression growing grimmer with each page. This is textbook exploitation, she said finally. Once we have the capacity evaluation results, we can move for an emergency freeze on accounts and possibly a conservatorship. I took a slow sip of coffee. And the will amendment? If your mother's found to have been under undue influence or lacking capacity, won't be worth the paper it's printed on. I nodded, watching steam rise from my cup. The pieces were in motion. Now we just had to wait for the right moment to strike. Mom's kitchen smelled like burned garlic and desperation. Brittany was helping make dinner, which meant hovering while I did the actual work. She'd already managed to scorch the first batch of vegetables beyond recognition. Here, let me... I reached for the spatula, but she yanked it away. I've got this. Her jaw tightened. I'm not completely useless, you know. I bit back a response about the smoking pan and focused on chopping fresh herbs. The steady rhythm of the knife helped calm my nerves. Everything in this house felt like a performance now. Mom's sudden sweetness, Brittany's territorial dancing, my own careful mask of compliance. Girls? Mom called from the living room. Is everything okay in there? Just fine, we chorused in unison, then shared a look of mutual irritation at the synchronicity. The transplant coordinator called, Mom continued. She can see us next Tuesday at 2. My knife paused mid-chop. Great, I managed, though my throat had gone dry. Remember that awful strawberry perfume Mom used to wear when we were kids? The sickly sweet scent that gave me headaches? This whole situation reeked of it, artificial and suffocating. You'll need to take off work, Brittany announced, as if she had any say in my schedule. It's important we all appear unified. I nodded, already planning to record every word of that meeting. Of course. Later that night, after Mom had gone to bed and Brittany was out with whatever friends still tolerated her, I sat in my car 3 blocks away. The neighborhood was silent except for distant crickets and my whispered updates to Catherine. The evaluation's scheduled for Thursday morning, I reported, 2 days after the transplant meeting. Perfect timing, Catherine said. Just keep playing along until then. How's your sister behaving? I glanced toward the house. Suspicious. She keeps watching me, trying to catch me doing something. Stay cool. We're almost there. The next morning, Brittany cornered me in the hallway. What were you doing out so late? Couldn't sleep. Went for a drive. I kept my voice neutral, my face blank. She studied me, head tilted. You've been taking a lot of drives lately. Fresh air helps me think. I smiled. About the transplant, you know? That seemed to satisfy her, or at least confused her enough to back off. But I noticed her hovering more, accidentally, walking past my room when I was on the phone, asking pointed questions about my work schedule. Mom, meanwhile, had transformed into a sugar-coated version of herself. She kept touching my arm, calling me sweetheart, asking about my life with seemingly genuine interest. If I hadn't found that lawyer's letter, hadn't seen the amended will, I might have believed she'd changed. I've been thinking, she said over breakfast. After the surgery, you should move back home permanently. We could be a real family again. My spoon clinked against the bowl. A real family? Like the one plotting to take my kidney and cut me out? That's something to consider, I managed. Brittany shot me a look across the table. Really? You'd give up your precious independence? I shrugged. Mom might need help recovering. The words tasted like ash, but I forced them out anyway. Each lie was another brick in the wall I was building, one that would eventually come crashing down on their heads. At night, I documented everything. Every manipulative conversation, every suspicious bank withdrawal, every instance of Brittany intercepting Mom's mail. My phone became a digital vault of evidence, carefully backed up to a secure cloud account. Just a few more days, I whispered to myself, staring at the ceiling of my childhood bedroom. The glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck up there at 13 were still faintly visible, dim echoes of a time when I'd believed in wishes. The transplant coordinator's office called to confirm our appointment. As I hung up, Brittany appeared in my doorway. Everything okay? Her tone was light, but her eyes were sharp. Just confirming Tuesday. I set my phone face down. Want to help me make a grocery list? Mom's been craving that chicken dish you used to make. The deflection worked. Brittany launched into a detailed explanation of her secret recipe, which I knew came straight from a cooking show, and the moment of suspicion passed. But later, catching her reflection in the kitchen window, I saw her watching me with narrowed eyes as I texted Catherine another update. The noose was tightening. I just hoped it would close around them before they caught on to what I was really doing. The hospital cafeteria smelled like burnt coffee and anxiety. Mom picked at a wilted salad while Brittany scrolled through her phone, probably ordering more stuff she couldn't afford. I touched the manila folder in my bag, my fingertips tingling. You know that moment right before a storm hits? When the air gets heavy and everything goes quiet? That's what this felt like. The transplant coordinator seems nice, Mom said, trying to fill the silence. I'm sure tomorrow will go smoothly. I took a slow sip of water. Actually, there's something we need to discuss first. Brittany glanced up, eyes narrowing. What's there to discuss? You're getting tested, right? Not exactly. I pulled out the folder and placed it on the table. The fluorescent lights made the legal letterhead gleam. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. What's that? This? I tapped the folder. This is everything. The forged checks, the redirected mail, the amended will you both thought I wouldn't find. My voice stayed steady, even as my pulse thundered. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Brittany's face went from tan to ash. You had no right? I had every right. I slid 2 sets of papers across the table. Mom, your accounts have been frozen under emergency elder protection. And Brittany, you're being charged with identity fraud and financial exploitation. The cafeteria seemed to freeze. A few tables away, someone dropped a spoon. You can't do this, Mom whispered, but her hands shook as she stared at the papers. I already have. I stood up slowly. The police have been notified. A court-appointed fiduciary will be managing the estate now. Brittany exploded out of her chair. You vindictive bitch. After everything you've what? I cut her off. Stolen? Lied about? The only thing you two have done is prove exactly why I walked away 2 years ago. Mom started crying, those familiar theatrical sobs that used to make me cave. "I'm your mother. How could you do this to me?" "The same way you could plan to take my kidney and then cut me out of the will." I shouldered my bag. "The difference is what I'm doing is legal." Brittany lunged for the papers, but a security guard was already approaching, drawn by her outburst. Perfect timing. I'd called ahead to warn them there might be a disturbance. "This isn't over," Brittany snarled. "Actually, it is." I stepped back as the guard arrived. "The DA has everything they need. Your life coaching business, those credit card applications in Mom's name. It's all documented." Mom clutched her chest, playing up the fragile patient angle. "My heart. I can't." "Save it for your new doctors," I said. "Medicaid will cover the basics." The guard positioned himself between us. "Is there a problem here?" "No problem," I replied. "I was just leaving. They have some legal papers to review." Brittany's mascara-streaked face contorted. "You'll regret this." But I was already walking away, my heels clicking against the linoleum. Behind me, I heard Mom's wails and Brittany's threats fade into white noise. The automatic doors whooshed open, and cool evening air hit my face. For the first time in weeks, I took a full breath. No more pretending, no more schemes, just clean, quiet justice. 3 days after the hospital showdown, I sat in my attorney's office, staring at the stack of documents that proved everything. The morning light streamed through his windows, catching dust motes in its beam. My coffee had gone cold, forgotten during his detailed explanation. "The judge's ruling came through this morning," Marcus said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "The revised will is officially void due to clear evidence of coercion. Given the documented financial abuse, the court has appointed a professional fiduciary to manage your mother's estate." I traced my finger along the edge of the ruling. "And Brittany?" "The DA is moving forward with multiple charges: identity theft, financial exploitation of an elder." He shuffled through some papers. "The evidence you gathered was impeccable, by the way. Most people miss the small details, but you documented everything. I learned from the best." I managed a small smile. Working in estate recovery had taught me exactly what to look for. "What about the house?" "The fiduciary will likely recommend selling it to cover your mother's care costs. Speaking of which," he leaned forward, "the transplant coordinator called. They need your final decision about proceeding with testing." My stomach clenched. Even now, some tiny part of me felt guilty. You know that voice that whispers, maybe you're being too harsh? But then I remembered the amended will, the cold calculation behind their plan. "Tell them I decline." The words came out firm and clear. "My mother can pursue other options through Medicaid." Marcus nodded, no judgment in his eyes. "I'll have my assistant make that call." He started gathering the papers into a folder. "Rachel, I've been doing this for 20 years. Your case was one of the cleanest I've seen. You should be proud. You protected yourself and probably saved your mother from complete financial ruin, even if she doesn't see it that way." I thought about Mom, now settled into a Medicaid-approved facility across town. The social worker had called yesterday to confirm the transfer went smoothly. Mom had apparently refused to speak to anyone, maintaining her role as the wounded victim. Classic Carol Camden performance. "Have you heard anything from your sister?" Marcus asked. "No, but her social media went dark right after the charges hit." I pulled out my phone, showing him the local news article. Apparently, her life coaching clients weren't thrilled to see their mentor's mugshot. He handed me the folder containing copies of everything: the court orders, the fiduciary appointment, the nullified will. "Keep these somewhere safe. And Rachel, try to remember, protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary." The weight of the folder felt like closure in my hands. Outside his office, the city hummed with morning traffic. I had a meeting with my moving company in an hour. They were packing up my childhood bedroom, the last piece I needed to handle. Standing in front of my car, I paused to check my messages. 3 missed calls from unknown numbers, probably Mom using different hospital phones, and 1 text from the social worker. "Your mother's care plan is set. You don't need to be involved further." Relief flooded through me. No more pretending. No more schemes. No more sacrificing pieces of myself to feed their endless needs. I drove to the house one last time, pulling into the driveway just as the moving truck arrived. The front door still bore scratches from where Brittany had thrown her keys during countless tantrums. The garden Mom had once tended lay withered and forgotten. just like her promises. Where do you want us to start? The lead mover asked. The upstairs bedroom on the left, I said. Everything's already boxed except the bed. It took less than an hour. 1 bedroom's worth of dignity, packed and loaded. I did one final walkthrough, making sure I hadn't missed anything important. The house felt hollow, its familiar sense of perfume and denial fading into stale air. In the kitchen, I left my key on the counter. The fiduciary would change the locks anyway. Through the window, I could see the moving truck idling, ready to follow me to my condo. The door clicked shut behind me with quiet finality. No drama, no tears, just the simple sound of a chapter ending. I walked to my car without looking back, the morning sun warm on my face. My phone buzzed. Marcus texting a confirmation that all the paperwork was filed. Case closed, it read. Well done. I started my engine, the folder of documents secure in my passenger seat. The moving truck pulled out behind me, carrying the last physical pieces of my old life away from this house of mirrors and manipulation. 3 weeks after walking out of Marcus's office, I stood on weathered wooden planks, watching ripples dance across Lake Morrison. My lake house wasn't fancy, just a modest 2-bedroom with faded blue shutters and a slightly crooked mailbox. But it was mine, bought and paid for with part of the recovered estate funds. You know what freedom smells like? Pine needles and lake water at sunrise. I'd spent the weekend installing a secondhand dock with help from my neighbor Ted, a retired carpenter who'd taken pity on my questionable DIY skills. The old wood creaked under my bare feet as I walked to the edge, coffee mug warming my hands against the morning chill. Looking good, Ted called from his yard. That boat of yours coming today? I nodded, unable to contain my smile. It wasn't much, just a simple 16-footer I'd found through a local fishing club. But I'd already ordered the vinyl lettering for the name, Second Wind. Sometimes the universe hands you perfect symbolism on a silver platter. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another message from Aunt Sarah. Honey, we're all so worried. Nobody knew things were this bad with your sister. Call me? I took a slow sip of coffee instead of responding. The local paper's website had run the story yesterday, complete with Brittany's mugshot plastered right under the headline, Life Coach Charged in Elder Fraud Scheme. The article detailed everything. The forged checks, the drained accounts, the identity theft. They'd even quoted some of her former clients, expressing shock that their spiritual mentor was facing criminal charges. The story had torn through our extended family like wildfire. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since. Cousin Marie wanted the real story. Uncle Pete suddenly remembered I existed. Even my mother's bridge club friends were reaching out, probably hoping for juicy gossip to share over their next game. A fish jumped nearby, sending concentric circles across the lake's surface. I watched them spread and fade, thinking about ripple effects. How many times had I seen the warning signs growing up? Brittany borrowing mom's credit cards, the constant stream of failed businesses, the way she'd manipulate everyone around her with dramatic tears and promises to change. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a news alert. A local business blog had picked up the story. They'd done a deep dive into Brittany's life coaching empire, uncovering a trail of bounced checks and abandoned office leases. The comment section was already filling up with former clients sharing their own stories of missing money and broken contracts. The sound of a truck backing up pulled my attention away from the screen. My boat was arriving, strapped to a trailer and looking a bit rough around the edges. But that was okay. We matched. Both of us were ready for a fresh start. "Where do you want it, ma'am?" the delivery guy called out. I pointed to the newly reinforced section of dock. Right there is perfect. While they worked on positioning everything, I walked back to the house to grab the vinyl lettering kit. Through the kitchen window, I could see my small garden starting to sprout, herbs and tomatoes reaching for sunshine, uncomplicated and honest in their growth. No manipulation, no hidden agendas, just simple things becoming what they were meant to be. The boat settled into place with a gentle splash. I spent the next hour carefully applying each letter, making sure they were perfectly straight. The white vinyl stood out crisp and clean against the dark blue hull. Second Wind. My phone buzzed yet again. This time it was Marcus, sending a link to another news article about Brittany. "Thought you'd want to see this? You okay?" I typed back quickly. "Never better. About to take my boat out for the first time." His response came fast. "Perfect name for it." Standing back to admire my handiwork, I felt the last bits of tension leave my shoulders. The lake stretched out before me, peaceful and full of possibility. No more walking on eggshells, no more bracing for the next crisis, no more sacrificing my peace to maintain someone else's chaos. A pair of ducks glided past, leaving gentle ripples in their wake. My phone buzzed with another relative's message, but I didn't bother checking it. Instead, I climbed aboard my boat, settling into the worn captain's chair. The motor started on the first try, another good sign. The morning mist rolled off the lake in gentle waves, carrying the scent of pine and possibility. I'd been up since dawn, watching the sun paint the water in shades of amber and rose. My coffee had gone cold twice, but I didn't care. After months of calculated moves and careful masks, the silence felt like a gift I'd given myself. You know that moment when you finally set down something heavy you've been carrying? That's what this morning felt like. No more strategizing, no more evidence gathering, no more playing the dutiful daughter while building my case. Just me, my deck chair, and the occasional fish breaking the surface. My phone sat dark and silent on the table beside me. I'd blocked Brittany's number yesterday after her single attempt to call, probably wanting to explain, to spin some story about how it wasn't what it looked like. But I was done with stories. Done with manipulation dressed up as love. Mom hadn't tried to reach out at all. Not one word since I'd walked out of that hospital cafeteria. Part of me had expected something. Anger maybe, or one last attempt at guilt. But there was only silence. It felt right somehow, like the period at the end of a very long sentence. Beautiful morning for coffee and contemplation. The voice startled me. A woman stood at the edge of my property line, silver gray hair catching the morning light. She wore the kind of comfortable clothes that spoke of someone completely at ease with themselves. "I'm Ellen," she said, raising her own coffee mug in greeting. "I'm your neighbor to the right. Thought I'd come welcome you properly to the lake." Something in her easy manner made me smile. "I'm Rachel. Would you like to join me?" She settled into the empty chair beside me, and we sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching a family of ducks parade past my dock. "I saw the story in the paper," Ellen said finally. "About your sister." My shoulders tensed automatically, but Ellen just took another sip of coffee. "My sister tried something similar with our mother's estate 10 years ago, though she wasn't quite as creative about it." I turned to look at her, really look at her. There was no judgment in her eyes, just quiet understanding. "How did that work out?" I asked. Ellen's laugh was warm and genuine. "Oh, she hasn't spoken to me since. Claims I ruined her life by stopping her from helping manage Mom's money. Last I heard, she was in Florida, probably working on her next scheme." "And how do you feel about that?" "Peaceful." Ellen stretched her legs out, wiggling her toes in their worn boat shoes. "Took me a while to get there, but peace is worth more than any inheritance." I thought about all the family messages still sitting unanswered on my phone. The flying monkeys, as my therapist would say, sent to make me question my choices. "Did your extended family try to get involved?" "Lord, yes. I was the bad guy for months, the cruel daughter who wouldn't let her poor sister help. But you know what? The truth has a way of surfacing, like those fish out there. Eventually, everyone saw what she really was. A loon called somewhere across the lake, its haunting cry echoing off the water. I remembered the sound from childhood vacations, back before everything got so complicated, when family still meant safety instead of strategy. "I keep waiting to feel guilty," I admitted, "for pressing charges, for walking away from the transplant. But all I feel is relief," Ellen finished. "Because you finally chose yourself." "Exactly." She nodded, understanding written in every line of her face. "That's not selfish, you know. It's survival." The sun had climbed higher now, burning off the last wisps of morning mist. My cold coffee sat forgotten as Ellen shared more of her story. The similarities were striking. Different details, same pattern. Different players, same game. "I have a spare paddleboard if you're interested," she said eventually, standing to leave. "The lake's gorgeous at sunset." "I'd like that." As I watched her walk back to her place, I felt something shift inside me. Not healing exactly, that would take time, but maybe the beginning of something new. Something like sisterhood. The real kind, built on truth instead of obligation. The ducks circled back, this time with a few tiny ones in tow. They paddled past my boat, past second wind, leaving gentle ripples in their wake. I reached for my phone, deleted the unread messages, and let myself sink deeper into my chair. This wasn't a fairy tale ending. My mother was still in that Medicaid facility. Brittany was still facing charges. The family was still in chaos. But here, in this moment, with the sun warming my face and the promise of paddleboarding with my new neighbor, I had something better than a fairy tale. I had peace. The late afternoon sun hung low and golden over the lake, casting long shadows across my new dock. I'd spent the morning with Ellen, learning the rhythms of lake life. But now was my moment. I ran my hand along the hull of my small boat. Nothing fancy, just a basic fishing vessel I'd picked up from a local dealer. But seeing Second Wind painted in crisp navy letters against the white fiberglass made my chest tighten with something that felt like pride. You know that feeling when you finally step away from a toxic situation and can actually breathe again? That's what this moment was. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably another relative trying to understand my side. I didn't bother checking. Instead, I focused on the gentle lap of water against the dock posts, the distant call of a loon, the rustle of leaves in the late summer breeze. The air smelled like pine needles and possibility. "Need a hand with that?" Ellen called from her deck. I shook my head, smiling. "I've got this one." And I did. After years of handling everyone else's crises, managing their messes, the simple act of pushing my own boat into the water felt like a declaration of independence. The hull scraped slightly against the dock as I positioned it. I thought about Mom, probably sitting in her Medicaid facility right now, realizing that her carefully orchestrated manipulation had backfired spectacularly. The designer handbags were gone. The weekly salon appointments, gone. The carefully curated image of affluent widow, shattered. I remembered the look on her face when the social worker explained her new reality. No more private room, no more specialty care. Just standard Medicaid coverage in a shared space, with staff too busy to cater to her demands. Her carefully manicured nails had dug into her palms until they left marks. And Brittany? Last I heard, she was trying to scrub her mugshot from local news websites. Good luck with that. The charges were public record: fraud, elder exploitation, identity theft. Her life coaching business had imploded overnight. Turns out clients aren't keen on taking advice from someone facing criminal charges. The boat rocked gently as I stepped in, steadying myself against the wooden seat. My hands found the oars, familiar from childhood summers at my grandfather's cabin. He'd taught me how to row when I was 10, back before Mom sold his place to fund one of Brittany's first failed ventures. The memory should have stung, but instead, it felt distant, like watching scenes from someone else's life. I pushed off from the dock with one firm stroke. Water gurgled against the hull as I glided backward, each pull of the oars taking me further from shore. The late sun caught the ripples, turning them to liquid gold. Behind me, my little lake house grew smaller, its windows reflecting orange fire. My arms found their rhythm. Pull, release, pull, release. Each stroke carried me deeper into the quiet heart of the lake. I thought about the meeting with my lawyer yesterday, when she confirmed that Mom's estate was now under court supervision. "They can't touch it anymore," she'd said, satisfaction clear in her voice. "You protected yourself, and her, whether she realizes it or not." A fish jumped somewhere to my left, sending rings across the glassy surface. I paused rowing, letting the boat drift. The silence out here was different from the silence in Mom's house, that had been heavy with secrets and schemes. This silence felt clean, light, free. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. Without looking, I knew it would be another flying monkey from the family, probably saying I should be ashamed for abandoning Mom in her time of need. They didn't know about the amended will, about the kidney being just another transaction, about years of manipulation dressed up as love. Some bridges aren't meant to be crossed again. Some ties aren't meant to be mended. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is light the match and watch them burn. I dipped my oars back into the water, turning the boat to catch the last rays of sun. Second Wind cut smoothly through the golden light, heading toward open water. Behind me lay the wreckage of their schemes. Mom in her shared room, Brittany facing charges. Ahead lay nothing but calm lake and clear sky. I exhaled slowly, feeling weeks of tension release with my breath. The water lapped steadily against the hull, a rhythm like a heartbeat. Like starting over. Some bridges are better burned than rebuilt. I believe stories like this find us for a reason. If this one touched you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day, and tomorrow's might be the one your heart's been waiting for.